Welcome back to Dietitians Beyond Borders. I'm your host, Jennifer Shalhoub, and I'm so excited to continue our global exploration of how nutrition and dietetics are practiced around the world. Today, we're heading to Portugal, a country known for its rich culinary traditions, scenic coastlines, and growing innovation in health and wellness. Joining me today is Helena, a registered dietitian from Portugal, who will share insights on how nutrition and dietetics are practiced in this beautiful country, the role of dietitians in the healthcare system, and the influence of Portuguese food culture on public health. Welcome. Hi.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. So thanks for the invitation.
Same here, of course. It's such a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Let's start with you telling us a little bit about yourself, about your background. How did you become a dietitian and what brought you to Portugal? Were you living there? Were you raised there? We'd love to know more about that.
No, sure. I am Portuguese. I was born in Portugal, and I always had this big passion on food. I think, like you said, Portugal is and Portuguese culture is very rooted in food. Our love language is a lot through food. We express our gratitude to food through food. When we want to welcome someone, is always through food. And it's a bit of an unspoken backbone of Portuguese culture and the way we live and communicate with each other. And when I was looking, so in Portugal, you have 12 years of basic education, so until you finish high school, and then you choose your career path or your university or professional um, formation, etc. And I was very torn. I did not know what I wanted to do, but it was, I think, very clear to me that I wanted to do something about behavior or behavior studies or eating behavior, etc. And that led me to nutrition. I've heard about the nutrition dietetics program in Porto. So I moved there and I did 4 years of a bachelor there. And I became my journey around dietetics. I've worked in Portugal for around 5 years and then I moved to Belgium. So I think there's a bit of a dual experience that we can talk about because it's very different between Portugal and Belgium, and also the things I do are very different. But yeah, that's how I got here, it's per se.
Perfect. And what do you currently do in Belgium? What's your expertise focusing on at the moment?
When I came to Belgium, my objective was really to deep dive into food policy in the EU. So I did some work at the European Parliament with food policy and health policy, agriculture policy. So I was, in a nutshell, helping policymakers make evidence-based decisions and evidence-based negotiations on this topic. And that's what I did for a long time. And then recently, I joined the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, and I'm working here with FAO. So I'm a consultant, and I'm focusing on agriculture and food policy. So keeping the food focus, but here moving a bit more towards policy and decision making.
This is amazing, amazing. And the audience, I'm sure they're listening, they're watching. Every single, I keep on saying that every time I meet, one of you guys, how incredible you guys are. Dietitians are just like they can go from clinical to community to policy making. But I think, in my opinion, policy making is super important, and especially in the world of nutrition. I hope we'll have a minute to talk about that later on, but this is amazing what you're doing, and
Thank you.
I just hope there are more people like you. Bottom line.
Yeah, there is much more better than me, so we're okay.
Well, perfect. So let's dive into the professional landscape first of all.
Mhm.
What does the education and credentialing process look like for dietitians in Portugal? So I just heard right now you guys complete an undergrad of 4 years. What happens next?
So you get your main basic education in nutrition and dietetics with a Bachelor of Science. It's 4 years. And then you have to proceed to a professional accreditation within a national governing body that's called Ordem dos Nutricionistas. So it's like an order of the profession that provides oversees how the profession of nutrition and dietetics is being protected, if the people that are saying they are dietitians and nutritionists are per se themselves. So it's like a protection of the profession itself, but also it's something that you have to do some exams before you can say that you are a nutritionist in Portugal. Just as a note, so in Portugal, the bachelor to be a dietitian and nutritionist is the same. So when you're doing the bachelor, you get both the clinical education that you would associate more with a dietitian in some countries, but you also get the public health part to be what some countries would direct more and identify more as a nutritionist. So it's very diverse, the sort of education you get, because you learn from very harsh clinics, more traditional clinical nutrition, but also the community interventions, the hospitality business, public health, so sports nutrition, a lot of different areas for exploration. And then you have to do a specific professional traineeship for the order of nutritionistas, so like the national board. Then you are evaluated on that traineeship. You also do an ethics exam, and then after this process that takes usually less than a year, you are okay, approved or not, and you become a dietitian in Portugal. So the credentialing process is more and less okay, traditional education with a bachelor, and then your professional traineeship, and then exams, and that how it goes.
Okay. Wow. Wow, wow, perfect. And I know we're going to focus on Portugal today, but just for the audience, in Belgium, did you have to could let me go back. Can you transfer your licensure in that way? Did you have to do anything again? Did you even need it because you were more in policy making? Yeah.
Exactly. So if I wanted to proceed to work in more of a clinical setting, I would have to have my bachelor and my credentials recognized, which can be done. And then you can work as any other health professional here, but you would have to go through the translation and recognition of your diploma and your competences. I didn't have to do it because went more in the deep dive into policy, but like you were saying, Jennifer, in case I wanted more of a clinical intervention sort of job, I would definitely have to do it. Yes.
Okay. 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 Good to know. Good to know. Because as we know, right, every single country, even here in the United States, every single state sometimes requires that change in licensure or something, credentials, which is important. It's important.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, perfect. How are dietitians integrated into Portugal's healthcare system? Do you feel their value? Do you feel like they have abundant significance? What can you share with us about that?
I think Portugal has still a very recent history of nutrition. So we don't have the same length in time per se of the since the beginning of the profession in Portugal. It's been clearly a smaller period than, for example, some countries like Brazil or other countries. But I can say that in the very short time that the profession exists as itself in Portugal, which has been I don't want to lie, so I'm not sure about how many years, but not a lot. Also, we have to consider that we had a dictatorship until 1974. So it was only after the revolution that we became with a bigger access to universities, and it was since then, so since 1974, that we had more investment in it, in education, and also some professions and some specific jobs grew with the openness of the country in academic settings and science to other countries outside of borders. So this also played a big role into it. But I would say that nowadays, nutritionists and dietitians, they're well integrated into the healthcare system, not as much as I would like to in terms of numbers. So the colleagues who are working in the primary care services, the urgency settings, the traditional clinics, etc. They are, I would say, in general, well integrated into the system itself, but we don't have enough. So when it comes, for example, to numbers, we don't have an appropriate ratio of professional dietitians working in the national healthcare system, and according to the population we have. So we do have a lack of people working there. Also, just for the listeners, Portugal, we have a national healthcare system. So it's the healthcare system that is available to all the population that needs it. And obviously with cuts and budget strands, it takes a toll on it. And then we have also private systems. So in parallel, there's also private facilities and private hospitals. But the main investment government-wise obviously is the national healthcare system, and there we see that there has been a growth in the numbers of colleagues we have working, especially in primary care services, but not as many as I would like to. So we are well integrated. We do play an important role in hospitals and community services, but we are not as well represented as we would like. In terms of public health, we do have an excellent national program of healthy eating and prevention. So that's good because I see even from the outside a lot of research about the program and a lot of quotes of the program as a good example. But yes, I think we would need more investment on that for sure. I think that not sure if this is the same sort of idea and perspective that you get from other colleagues around the world, but I really think that there's this mismatch between science and policy when it comes to the life, how do I say, the time it takes for things to change. So in healthcare, we need changes. And for example, hiring more nutritionists. Okay, this will have an impact in 10, 15 years. And in terms of policy, they want a time frame to see results that's way smaller because also of the electoral cycles, etc. So sometimes it's a bit of a hustle to try to make sure that prevention is prioritized and that prevention programs and integration of dietitians are prioritized when the policies that sometimes are a bit more sexy are the ones who have a shorter effect and that are quickly, you see results more quickly, etc. So I think that also plays a role on this.
Yeah, these are, you know what, these, as you mentioned, you kind of gave a bit of both. Seems that, dietitians are definitely important, they're vital, their value is shown. But as you mentioned, um, everything takes time, and
Yes,
especially things that are not too trendy.
yes, exactly.
So yeah, hopefully for the best. And we're gonna talk about a couple opportunities in a couple minutes. So Portuguese cuisine is known for its simplicity, freshness, and seafood-rich dishes. How do you see traditional Portuguese food being integrated into nutrition counseling? I know you not doing that, but based on your colleagues,
Exactly.
what you're listening out there, how are they able to mesh both of them?
No, sure. And also I think because when I was working in Portugal back home, my experience was mainly clinical. So I still remember that challenge, was not really a challenge, but a need, because I think there's no interest in doing a food-based intervention when it comes to improving an individual's health without considering their culture and what they have available, what they like to do and to eat. So, sorry.
Yeah.
So there's for sure this need to integrate tradition into the interventions. And I would like to just really say that I think Portuguese gastronomy is really underrated, because we have, okay, amazing seafood, but also a lot of interesting dishes, very diverse. And a good approach also to Mediterranean eating style of food, but also so a bit more plant-based. So when I think about Portuguese food, I cannot think just about codfish or just the usual. I lost count of the amount of dishes we have. Even just one sort of fish, the way we have like 1,000 of ways of preparing it is always, you're always lacking in terms of knowledge. You never know enough. And that presents also a great opportunity because there is a very clear way to, and quoting you on the freshness, on the simplicity that some of these dishes have. There is a way to show people that these dishes, they have a very interesting nutritional value, and obviously you can make them a little bit healthier. You can reduce the amount of fat you put, the amount of salt, make sure that you make great use of our national herbs and making sure that it's appropriate for what that person in question needs. But I think that they have to, these foods are a part of our nutrition counseling, and they have to be, because if I meet someone, for example, a middle-aged Portuguese gentleman that works in shifts and moves a lot, etc., and I come with just a solution and a proposal of like, yeah, let's make some oatmeal pancakes in the morning, and then you're gonna have a very fresh salad just in the afternoon. It's not feasible and it's not interesting for him. The idea, and I think the trick is really to adapt the nutritional counseling to what that person needs and what that person likes. So I would say that that's definitely the it factor that I think makes these approaches then more or less feasible and more or less realistic
Yeah. I haven't been to Portugal, but actually my sister
yet.
went, yes, of course, because I have it on my list 1000%. My sister just went recently, and the
Oh,
pictures of food she sent, my God, so delicious.
yeah.
I'm like, I can go tomorrow, So it's just it's so nice. And you said that plant forward, Mediterranean, and just so diverse, yet simple, but still diverse.
Hmm.
Because the flavors, the mixing, and as you said, somebody who's been used to this won't go to oatmeal, that's
Yeah,
something
exactly.
that they're used to. So 100%. So we spoke about couple challenges. Now,
Hmm.
I would like to hear your thoughts about the policy-making realm when it comes, if you want to compare and contrast, with what you're seeing in Belgium. Like, also you're working in big, big organizations, such as the United Nations. So I know that's maybe not 100% focusing on Portugal, but what are some things that you maybe are working on? If you can say, of course, you don't have to, no pressure. Anything that you're working on that might be related back to your home country or maybe to Europe in general, or the world, like anything that you feel has been challenging and you guys are trying to find like ways to.
I can say that, yeah, and this goes a bit more back to when I was in the European Parliament. There was a lot of files focusing on rural areas and agricultural development, and I can see that there's a big challenge, I would say, sometimes in making sure that the environmental crowd and the agriculture crowd speak the same language and are on the same page. in terms of specific files focusing, for example, on agricultural innovation, access to foods, protection of species, etc., um, there is really a need for to find common ground and to make sure that we find consensus. I would say that, um, especially here in Brussels, all the jobs I've been, the key word is always consensus and making commitments and compromises and amending things to make sure that, okay, we gather a compromise that is okay for all the parts involved. In Brussels, for example, if you are working on a specific policy file, that means that you have to, what the final product has to be in agreement with, and at least mostly in agreement with what the European Commission wants, what the European Parliament, where the people that represent each country by voting are, but then also the council, where the representatives of each government are. So it's a big mess per se of interests, of priorities, of needs. So the way this then works and is translated into files and policies and changes in people's lives, it's really rewarding and it's really sorry that I'm diverging a bit from your question, but I think it's
Don't worry,
also an interesting
we love it.
perspective on this, that it's a big salad bowl of priorities and interests, and then the magic is really finding this consensus and this common ground and communication. But I would definitely say that files that have been focusing on rural areas, biodiversity, protection of species in terms of fruit and vegetables, and protection of very specific breeds in not breeds but species in Portugal. Sorry, for example, it's been very interesting and very rewarding to say. So I think in general, there's always something that goes back to our country, because from the European lens to the more global lens, there's always a lot that we bring from our own countries. And in my case, a lot of it is informed and has to do with my lived experience in Portugal as a nutritionist, as the granddaughter of farmers, and as someone who's from a rural area. So there's a lot of it that influences my perspective and the way I see the job and the challenges. So yes.
That's That's honestly the most important thing, right? Taking anything that you can, and whether it's from your professional work or even from your personal, from
Mhm.
your ancestors, and how
Exactly.
they got to where they are, and you just keep on, paving the way. So that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And I hope that, with your work and others, it will only keep on getting this tough and challenging road to open, um,
Mhm.
especially when it comes to nutrition. As
Mhm.
we know, it's such a brand new science that people are trying to find any way
For
to
sure.
blossom it within evidence-based research, within credible information from licensed practitioners. So, and that's it, that's all, right? So before we wrap up, what advice would you give up to aspiring dietitians, especially those considering practicing internationally, or in Portugal, in public health or in clinical? What would you say about that?
My main advice, honestly, and at least from what I've been learning, it's uh, ask. Don't be afraid to ask for help, to put yourself out there, to write to people and ask, ask, ask. Because at least what I see with colleagues, with myself, and my career in the last 10 years is really that it's that there are people around that are willing to help, that want to help, and that may know about opportunities, about ideas, about things, that building blocks that make your path easier and that can make you reach out to a larger audience. So we have this challenge of the science itself, this discipline being young, but we can only move it forward if we help each other. So even initiatives like your own, like this podcast, I think are really important in making sure that we are connected, that we listen to each other, and that we pave the way, because we definitely want to pave the way, move it forwards, and make it positive.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I love that. So again, you're amazing. Thank you for joining us today and sharing your experience and insights into the practice of dietetics in Portugal. It's been so inspiring to hear how you bridge, cultural food traditions, policy, with evidence-based practice and knowledge. And that's everything for us. That's everything for us in this podcast and hopefully in our field. To our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review. You can also follow me on social media. It's down below. So until next time, stay curious, stay nourished, and keep exploring nutrition beyond borders. Thank you so much.